Hello, welcome to another SonicLAB. It's that time of year, Gaz. It's Cubase time of year.
Cubase time, my favourite time of year.
Exactly. And Cubase 10 came out probably a few weeks ago now, and you've been sort of digesting, because you're a Cubase user, right?
Yes, I am. I've been a Cubase user since, oh gosh, like early 90s, really. And because this is like, it's a big number now. This is Cubase 10.
10.
But really, it's not 10. If you think about it, it's actually 15, because the Cubase got to version 5 and then went to SX. And then SX2, SX3, then became Cubase 4. So really, it's Cubase 15, but we'll call it Cubase 10.
10
anyway.
sounds more authoritative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, big number. Is it a big update?
Well, I think it is a big update, but it's not a big update in terms of like lots of new plugins and things like that. In fact, when it comes to new plugins, we're down to just one new plugin, although it's a good one. But so this update really, what it represents is a big overhaul in the kind of graphics and the appearance, and I think there's an awful lot of work has kind of gone into that.
Well, I suppose because now computers are, lots of them 4K,
Yes.
Retina displays, all of that. So, you want
Exactly.
to update all of that.
So yes, so it has a new high DPI engine, and then what that means is essentially if you've got your 4K display, it'll scale to that, or like there's various different ways of scaling down your 4K display, and Cubase will move and look beautiful at
Right,
whatever.
and here we are showing it in 1080, which is probably the lowest resolution.
Yeah.
Well, you might do 1280, I suppose.
Yeah, but when you do look at it on a 4K screen, and as I say, you get it just right. Everything's...
Can we have are there contextual menus and stuff like that? What's the?
Yes. So yes. Apart from the high DPI, they've kind of rearranged a lot of the menus as well.
Uh-oh.
Yes, so people who are very used to it are going to have... I don't think there's that much of a learning curve. I think you'll get there quite quickly. But I'll give an example now. So for instance now, Cubase has established this format, which we've seen in other software, where we've got the transport now lives at the bottom. It's been on there for a few versions. But we can see, like, if we were just to drag out these areas, we can see that...
they sort of snap to additional functions.
Snap to additional functions, yeah. So... and then, and you see that a lot throughout the display. Down the bottom left here are sort of certain things that you don't need to get to very often, but, as I say, you just pull them in and out and you can get to them there. We can see that this graphical look, it's got this flatter, which is much more kind of current, I guess, look. One thing I should mention, currently, when you right-click, the way I've got it now, I've got the context menu, and you notice that the tools have gone from the top now. So holding down Control on the Mac.
Right, that's probably going to be the biggest thing, isn't it? Because people are used to the control, but it's only a single modifier. So
yeah, so that's one thing. But for instance, if I was to open like the audio mixdown window, we can see that there's these like little kind of drop down areas. So they start clean and you can clutter it up if you want. And you can clutter it up if you want. Yeah, exactly. But you will find another example. If I come to our project synchronization setup window, this now is in different tabs. Again, to do with cleaning it up, but it may well be that you are searching for some things.
So in terms of other sort of major tweaks, I mean, what are we looking at really?
Well, just to finish off on this kind of visual thing, what we'll also find is that a lot of the plugins have received new skins and some new functionality in some cases. Going back to like DaTube, which is a really ancient one, we can see that it's now gained this kind of uniform sort of look that these plugins have kind of got, which is
so there's clearly a lot of work.
Oh gosh, if you think about it, all of these, everything that's sort of
the graphics department must have been cursing.
Yeah, and really, yes. So, like, if we were to open up the channel strip now, this is great. Now the channel strip it looks so much better.
Right.
Functionality-wise, more or less the same, but we can see, like, when we turn these on, they've got a much nicer look. Prior to this, they were much more just like a line and a number, right? But now we've got a little bit of graphics, and in certain cases, like certainly with a compressor, you've got like a kind of full screeny sort of. Well, I say full screen of the channel strip bit there to. If the
looks like an Alicia, doesn't it?
Yeah. So
probably not allowed to say that, though.
but you can see, like, just the look of that channel strip there just really does have
Right,
a
so-
nice professional look
Yeah,
about
so
it.
quite a big overhaul there in terms of graphics, right?
Enormous, yeah. So okay, so that I mean, we could spend ages just going through all the different windows, but that's a bit boring. But needless to say, it is a complete graphical overhaul.
Right.
Yes. So next, what should we look at? So
Well, there's the VariAudio, isn't there? That's
Yes.
one of the big sort of bullet points, the big key thing.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the big ones. So VariAudio 3 is the new one. Ostensibly, it's like a Melodyne-esque wave file editing paradigm, I suppose. And speaking of which, there is a new paradigm to the way VariAudio 3 works. And well, we'll see that now. So we'll just open up an audio file, and let's just hit this edit VariAudio. So it'll just do a quick scan. Now,
Right, that looks like Melodyne to me. That expressive sort of editing.
Similar, yes. And there's a new thing here, smart controls. So default smart controls. What this means, if we were to look at an element here, there's little, see the little green squares around. So basically, if I was to grab the top one, that will sort of straighten the pitch curve. Prior to this, you'd have to select. You have to come over here to adjust.
Right.
So being able to do it directly from here, you can just grab the ends, and you can just
Stretch it
out, and similarly at the bottom here, this will just quantize the pitch. So
Sounds like a vocal.
yeah, and what it does now is it snaps to absolute as a default, meaning that it'll actually center the WAV file. When you move it, it'll snap it onto the chromatic.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now the color scheme that we can see here is also quite interesting because we've got blue, red, and green notes. Green notes are notes which are notes which are in the current chord. This is
right,
all.
because you use chord tracks a lot.
That's right. Yeah. So this is all so we've got a chord track running through the song here. So that chord track then is informing what, or rather is showing us. So blue notes are scale notes, so they're okay. Red notes are
jazzy.
Yeah. So, so it would just be.
So you can very quickly look at something. If somebody's done a vocal across, you just go, that looks wrong.
Yeah.
So that might be something I need to look at.
And a green note is likely, it's going to be a chord note's going to sound the strongest. A blue note will be the next one, and then a red note. But also, there is another thing as well, is like and sometimes the algorithm might detect, like say in this bit here, it puts it as one note when it's actually two notes. Well, now, just by putting the mouse to the bottom end there, it turns to a pair of scissors,
so then you can snip it.
and then you can make it, Previously, you'd have to go swap the tool over to the segment tool, come back over. With our smart controls, what we can also do though, at the moment, it's just showing us the default smart controls. But if we go show all smart controls, now when we look, there's extra boxes and a little diamond which has appeared. So what this now means, that this now gives us even more options at what we can do with a note. Example being, we can tilt.
Oh, what? So you can have a pitch up or down at the end of a note?
Yeah, and this little diamond here is the rotation point.
The axis point.
The axis point. So if I just shuffle that along there, and then you can move just it from the axis there. You could do this before, but these smart controls just make it
sort of
much easier.
option,
Yeah, but there are a bunch of things that you couldn't do from before, one of which, down the bottom, this bottom right one, gives us a volume control where we can actually
that's
adjust
useful for
the volume.
like, maybe mouth click noises. And
all sorts of stuff.
all at the same time, all in the one edit window.
Yeah, all in the one edit window. So just like a little syllable, maybe a little bit quiet, just give that little bump, another thing, or maybe a bit.
It's really interesting because, I mean, it might seem to be kind of slightly obsessive, but I mean, we're so used to hearing, perfectly produced vocals, and
Yes,
it's such a sort of powerful, or such a big part of modern production. Right, well, there's so much more. We better crack on. So what's this auto-align business?
Right, okay. So here's some bit dodgy vocals I recorded late last night. In the group there.
Do I really have to wait for tomorrow for the man with a van to come?
The Amazon man.
Ah.
What's he says?
'Cause I only just bloody went and bought it after recognizing about it in bed.
So it's the lament. It's the online purchase lament.
Yeah. So a bit shoddy vocals, and but now what we'll do is I'll take this, like the lead vocal, which is the top one, which is highlighted, and I'm going to push this little button here, which says Open Alignment Project. Now, so I've got to choose a reference. So I want my lead vocal to be the reference.
Right.
So I'm going to select that one, and now I'm going to actually group select these three, and then hit that. So now
That's that right. So it's going to apply the first one to the second three, right?
yeah, second three. Yeah. So now we'll do Align Audio, and it's not. There's a couple of options. I've left this off at the moment because I seem to get better results. So I guess it's a
Depends on the case usage.
case usage, yeah. But I am doing alignment precision 100%.
So you really want to line it up.
Yep. So let's align them nice and tight. So let's just have a listen to it here.
'Cause I only just bloody went and bought it after recognizing about it in bed.
Right. So that's much tighter.
Yeah, without it.
'Cause I only just bloody went and bought it after recognizing.
Yeah.
So I mean, just for vocal comping and backing vocals, and so I mean, there are other tools that do this, but this now does it in Cubase.
It does.
Right. Okay.
And you see, so this whole idea of working with multiple parts, multi-select them all, have a look at them, and now we can see them all. And
Right. Okay.
you know, yeah, you've been able to do this before, but I think it's sort of the combination of all the tools now. But if I wanted to as well, I can display a MIDI file in there as well, and it'll show the MIDI notes.
So you can see just how far off you are.
Yeah. So you know, and the MIDI notes might help you with aligning what.
So
the
you
notes are.
were saying with the choir thing that the gig you used to have to do, you know, you'd have to do all of this by hand, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had to create stems for people to learn choir parts, so they had to be really, really accurate. And there was usually about 8 or 9 parts per song, and they all had to be perfectly aligned, and it was all very manual. I mean, the amount of time I've saved. I mean, I've done that. I did that job for about 5 years. The amount of time I'd have saved, I reckon, probably about three months of solid time. If this would, oh, damn you, Cubase, when you bring this out 5 years ago. However, very glad to see it on there.
The thing is that these are the sort of things that people who are working professionally in audio all the time. I mean, you know, your hobbyist may well get into this sort of thing, but this is stuff for people who need this stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, just one of those things, the amount of time it takes just to go over to the left, select, come over back over to the right, that all adds up. It's sort of just having everything just there. And just the way it all feels like the fine tune, and especially being able to adjust the volumes, I think is very crucial.
Well, because quite often you would just compress the whole thing, which you might end up with a bit of like, actually, you know, there's too much compression on that bit. So you can manually level it out if you really want to. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, so again, I'm using the chord track. Like I love the chord track with Cubase.
Let's hear this song because there's backing track here. Come on,
do you hear it?
Yeah, come on. I want to hear it in full.
Okay.
Do I really have to wait for tomorrow for the man with the van to come? 'Cause I only just bloody went and bought it after recognizing about it in bed.
Excellent. Well, I felt that has its first airing. It's an exclusive, folks. You heard it here. It's a very Christmassy sort of number as well. So I'm not quite sure whether this is going to go out, whether we'll get this out before Christmas or after.
Yeah.
It might apply to January sales as well. So what's next?
Okay, next. So Cubase always prides itself on being very cutting edge, and it likes to have lots of the latest sort of technologies embedded into it, such as virtual reality. And there's a bunch of virtual reality related features.
Mixing for 3D audio.
Yeah, and for ambisonics and all, you know, and like a special panner as well. You know, so that's all in there. I mean, I haven't actually investigated that. So I don't know.
How would we demonstrate it? We're not publishing YouTube videos in multi-channel audio just yet.
In virtual reality.
All virtual reality. Yeah.
But anyway, so MPE, which became a standard. Hallelujah!
I mean, it's a bloody nightmare in most DAWs. You look at, because you record something in MPE, in most DAWs, at least the ones that will support multi-channel record, you look at the MIDI and you just go,
yeah,
I may as well record it again and get it right. Because it's really difficult to edit, right?
But I mean, what happens here is if we look in our studio setup.
Oh yeah, we've got a Seaboard block, Rowley Seaboard block, which I've reviewed elsewhere. It's a good one, this, actually. I do like it as a piece. Nice and little.
And actually, just by plugging in, it saw it and generated this new MIDI. It's a new note expression input.
There it goes.
MIDI instrument. So, you know, if I wanted to build another one, for instance, I'd go here, note expression input device.
And you set it all up. But this kind of figured it out.
It saw it and it set it up. And we can see here, we've got it. So
Cubase is the VST3, the note expression stuff as well.
Yeah, so it's treating the three elements there. I know that this has got like release velocity as well as velocity, but aftertouch, pitch bend, and vertical sort of. So this is like how you'd kind of configure it at a sort of global level. But then when we if we looked on the side here now, we've got our note expression, and we can see in this left column H, V, and P. H for horizontal, V vertical, and P pressure.
So you map it. Is that for mapping it, or is that for labeling it in the editor?
This is for mapping it. So I could go to a different element, for instance, the aftertouch here, and I could change the aftertouch to be in the vertical. And
okay. You know, so it's quite flexible.
Yeah. So and along with this MPE support, both the main two synthesizers within Cubase, which is a Retrolog and Pad Shop, the granular synth, have both got a whole bunch of MPE presets specifically designed.
And this is part of the new content that comes with.
Yes.
Whenever they do a big update, you get a load of extra content.
Yeah, there's about 5 gig of new content, loads of sort of hip hop and dance grooves, all sorts of stuff the sort of stuff you get loads of. I tend to never really venture into that area too much, but in this left-hand column, that's where you'll find the stuff. But I should mention actually, in this left-hand column though, like mentioning about drag and drop, if we look here though now, we can see effects. Previously, we could see Steinberg's own instruments in this column, but now we can see all VST effects, including third-party ones. If we notice all the Cubase ones have already got their own icons. But if you were to take something that you've got that's a third-party piece of software that doesn't have an icon, let me see, like Surfer EQ. Incidentally, if I was just to drag here, I could drag this and drop it onto an insert. But if I just drag it onto the channel, the track list here, it'll actually create
a track with an instance.
Ascend.
Right.
Ascend
okay.
track. Yeah. Ascend.
Because it's an effect rather than an instrument.
Because it's an effect, exactly.
So we've got a lovely graphical interface there.
Yeah. And now if we notice here, there's a little picture of a camera. If I click that camera, then
ta-da! So does that actually then, is that persistent every time you then load Cubase back up?
Yes, it will be then. It will be, yeah. So I guess it'll take a bit of time just for you to do that on all your favourite plugins.
Useful.
But then, yeah.
So anyway, back to the MPE.
Yeah.
So Pad Shop, what we do if we go to Pad Shop? So if I do that,
look. And it may be a little bit difficult to see, but these different colours are actually flashing when they receive when they receive the various.
If we record some, what does that actually look like in the?
Okay.
Oops. I made a bum note there.
Okay, good. I'm glad. So we can have a look at that. So here we are, our typical.
So that just looks like regular MIDI, right?
Yeah, but if we were to double click on a note, then it opens up this inspector panel, which, with this little drop down, we can see there's our 3.
Right, the controls.
The controls, yeah. There it is.
Right, so that's now showing the tuning curve.
That's showing the tuning curve there. So if I was just to select that, I could just then
move it around.
And similarly, so you can just actually, by just clicking on the background there, you can see. So let's say
that's tied to the events, because when you see it in most things, I mean, it's a mess. It's either a lane down the bottom or it's just a list of a ton of disconnected events.
You know, and this is called note expression. This is on a per note basis, and you know, and like to get really fiddly with the edit, I guess would probably be a little bit annoying. But you know, like say for instance, we just wanted to take off that slightly extreme spike there, and maybe wanted to to smooth it out or whatever.
It's certainly a lot better than any other MPE editing I've seen in a DAW. So it's just, I mean, it might not be there perfect yet, but it's a good start, isn't it?
I think it's pretty cool. And you know, but I just
means I don't have to re-record it. You can fix it in the edit.
Right. So that whole kind of integrated aspect of MPE, I think, is really cool. And I'm sure people who are Cubase users and Roly owners, and maybe like Linstrument and some other things. I'm using
the Medusa.
The Medusa, the Medusa's now got MPE mode. That's what I've been using at home. So okay. So let's see next. Well, we've got our little distortion, which I think is worth having a look at because it does actually sound really, really good.
Okay, so this is another little sketch, right?
It's a tiny little sketch. Let's listen. So I'm using the distortion here on the brass. Let's take
so this is the new plugin. We have a look at the window.
Yeah. Here. Let's take it off.
Right, okay.
There's something about the way that worked though, and the way it sounded in the mix. So I just thought it just sounded like, you know, distortions is always a funny one I find with digital distortions, and you know, the way it seems to lose presence, but this seemed to have a kind of nice presence, kind of in the context. It seems to sort of do something.
Excellent.
Those sounds, by the way, are coming from the Groove Agent SE5.
Oh, which comes as...
I think, let's have a look at that actually.
Oh, right, okay.
Let's have a look at that, because that Groove Agent SE5 is something new with Cubase 10. And
the whole Groove Agent thing has been kind of overhauled, hasn't it?
Yes, and Groove Agent has now got it's got its big brother that's a standalone product, the Groove Agent 5. Ostensibly the same way to use it, but you get like the 4 different agents that you can run with Groove Agent.
So it's kind of, I mean, because I know Logic have done this thing where they've given sort of drumming personalities. They've sort of dumbed it down a bit. This doesn't look very dumbed down. This looks kind of quite comprehensive.
Yes, and it is. So this new acoustic agent, which is one of the new, which is a multi-sampled drum kit. It sounds really good. Something I should mention, you see here now, with these resizable, well, in fact we can full screen this now, and with these resizable windows.
I mean, this looks like a kind of door in its own right with all the mixer channels and whatnot, and transport control.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if I got this sort of kit playing and went to the pattern editor here, you know, you get this little sort of tool which helps you.
And that's presumably automatable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's automatable, and depending on the way that you've got it set up, you can have autofills and various other things going on. But what I wanted to show here, though, was like if we were using this as our rhythmical accompaniment in our project, we've got this kind of like sort of sub mixer built in here.
It's quite a complex mix and plugins and effects processing.
Yeah, because each one we pick down the bottom here, we can see we've got an EQ, a tape saturator, a compressor, and an envelope shaper. And if you were thinking, oh, this is adding more complexity. So like if I wanted to mix and wanted to make some adjustments to the drums, having to come into Groove Agent and make those adjustments, that could start to be a bit of a nuisance if you're in the main workflow.
And you're in your mix mode.
And but I really like this now, you see. So we can come here, and here I can go export, mixer, and effects to Cubase. So by clicking on that now, it now tells us mixer is exported to host. So if I close Groove Agent and open up the mixer, I'll do it from the bottom here. Let's have it here, Mix Console. There it is.
So it's actually replicated what was going on inside the plugin in the mixer.
Yeah, and if we were to look here, all the plugins are there as channel strip setups.
That's really interesting. So if you had like a guide drum kit, and then you got someone to come in and track the drums, could you drag audio channels onto all those individual tracks and then sort of process them like you'd processed your Groove Agent sounds, or would that be a bit pushing it a bit?
I think these tracks are kind of grouped part of the thing, but there's probably some way of doing it. But
I suppose the other thing it does then, it becomes part of the mixer flow and the mixer snapshots and whatnot.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned mixer snapshots, because that's the next thing we're going to have a look at. So mixer snapshots are actually quite a cool feature. Okay, so I'll bring in a song here, and what I'll do is I'll create a snapshot and then I'll create a second snapshot, and then we'll see what kind of functionality exists that you can do with this. This, I can see many, many uses of it. Let's say, for instance, we've just run off a mix. It might be a good habit to get into just when you've done a mix, just give in a little snapshot button once you've done it, and maybe name it the same as the mix. Because
then you won't have mix, final in the actual project, but you could have it in your mixer snapshots.
In your mixer snapshots, yeah.
You could hide your dirty secret.
yeah. So let's just play a bit of this track. Okay, not a good mix, needs a mix, but okay, so let's just do that, and I hit that.
So you've saved that snapshot.
Yeah. Let's take the drums really down, really low here.
I'll tell you what, let's take the guitar down. That was really loud.
Oh, yeah, it was, yeah, guitar.
The rhythm
down.
Guitar.
Yeah.
It's got automation.
Turn it on, switch off.
What about plugins? Can you change the plugins?
Yeah. So snapshot, let's do that now. So now I've got my two snapshots anyway. Let's just do that first, and then we'll do the plugin thing now. So this snapshot, let's go back to snapshot 1.
It's not instantaneous.
And I think the reason for that is
because it does pull the plugins in, which is going to interrupt the audio flow. So, and affect all the latency compensation and whatnot.
Yeah, so we're going to go to snapshot 2, and on the bass, let me add one of those lovely frequency EQs, and I'll just do like a little bump or something here just for the sake of it, like so, and then let's give
little bump. Well, it is the bass. Bump. Yeah, you're the bass player. It's fair enough. You're allowed to.
So it gives me a chance now to update the selected snapshot, which is in this case is snapshot 2, and so now
when you recall it,
let's go back to snapshot 1, and what we'll see.
The bass, the plugin's gone.
The plugin's gone. Yeah. So
I guess this would be useful for an instrumental. So you've run off your whole mix, and you do your instrumental mix.
Yeah.
But that was interesting what you were doing where you were changing the level, for instance.
Yeah.
That had automation on it, so therefore that wouldn't have been in place. So how does it work with automation?
It sort of deletes the automation, or sort of it overrides it. I think.
Right. So you can't get a fully automated mix recall, but you could get your vanilla. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now, if we look at the recall settings, though, this is something that's quite cool. Look, I could go selected channels only. So in the case of like,
okay, so you can be quite specific.
Yeah, I could just say, let's just select my drum tracks here.
Drums forward mix. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. And then I can then go to sort of recall settings and say selected snapshots, selected channels only. And then when I was to go to that, say snapshot 2, the only thing that's changing is the drums.
Right. Okay.
So you can, that's quite nice to go.
I suppose and again, these are things that are more pro working everyday tools.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. An example of that could certainly be that with the drums. You go, you're on a mix, and you get a call saying the last mix was great, but preferred the drums from the previous mix. So you just get the drum channels from the previous mix. So it's kind of Yeah, I mean...
And I suppose you could set things like mixer states for bouncing stems and that sort of stuff, so you could just have it like, this is a vocals only, stems bounce, or that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're using effects sends rather than sends per channel, inserts per channel.
I think as well it could be quite useful. You can set up sort of cue mixes for headphones and stuff, which sometimes I think is a bit fiddly. It might actually be easier just to completely change the mix for the vocalist, save it as a snapshot for the, as a vocal overdub mix, with everything down in the levels.
Right, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So using it as a utility as opposed to for rendering a final mix. So, I think pretty cool function, really.
Well, we've covered a lot of things that we didn't think we were going to get around to. I don't know how long this is, but I hope it's held your attention.
Yeah,
there is more. We should probably say at this point, it's £480 to buy Cubase 10.
The whole thing.
This is it Studio or Art Studio?
Studio, yes.
Cubase 10 Studio.
Yeah.
To upgrade from 9.5 is about 85 quid. There's so many variants of that. You should really check out.
What's relevant to you.
Yeah.
I think it's certainly, if you're on Cubase 9, certainly justifiable to go to Cubase 10. Yeah, 9.5, I think all of these things come together to make a more, as you mentioned, professional workflow enhancing. Certainly going to look nicer on your monitor, pretty much whatever monitor you've got. I do believe as well the audio engines had certain tweaks. It's a bit more efficient now, so you should.
Oh, and it doesn't do higher audio rates as well, bit rates.
I'm
so glad, because
you're so glad, yeah.
24-bit was never enough for me.
You're just finding out you constrain that 144 decibels is just not enough.
I need 192 dB of dynamic range.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because Cubase now does actually support 32-bit integer recording and 64-bit recording too.
I just can't imagine why you would ever need that. Why? I mean, what audio equipment is there out there that could handle that level of dynamic range? Maybe a mixing for kind of, insect or something. I don't know. But I mean, it's there.
Yeah, it's there. I think, and that does depend on whether your audio interface is going to support that as well.
But I suppose what you could do is, if you're in the box, you could do a bounce of say you had a 24-bit session, you could bounce that to 32-bit to just get a bit more headroom and whatnot for pre-mastering. Maybe that might make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to see comments to see what 64-bit recording offers. Really, why, if anyone out there is interested in that. Right. Again, as I say, you need your audio interface to support it. So, and I'm not sure that many, if any, do at this point in time, but Cubase is ready for it when people do make that change. Right. Well, Gaz, thank you very much for showing us that. That was our SonicLAB special on Cubase 10, which is available now. Just head to steinberg.net for all of the information and the upgrade price. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Do I really have to wait for tomorrow for the man with the van to come? 'Cause they only just put it when I'm bought it, after recognizing about it in bed.